Hey guys, this is Eric with Indie Invasion, and I'm back again for another First Impressions, where I give you my first impressions of looking at a game for the first time. But before we get into that, if you would please like, subscribe, and even share Indie Invasion content so you can help us help those indie developers spread the word on their fun games. So today, what I'm looking at is War Rocket. This is by Hydra Miniatures, the same developers of, it's right back there, Retro Ray Gun, that both me and Mac have been featuring a little bit lately on the podcast. And War Rocket, basically, to sum it up, if you've ever played any space flying combat game like, X-Wing, Attack Wing, and there's other games like that too, is basically this, but with a lot less rules to simulate space combat. The game is, much faster and quicker, and it doesn't, focus on all the little statistics and stuff like that some of those other space combat games have. The setting, very much like Retro Ray Gun, it's fast-paced pulp sci-fi game. This video, I don't want to get too deep into the mechanics. I'll leave that for you guys to explore when you check them out on their either Facebook or on their website. But you basically, you use the stats of the ships that you will use for War Rocket. And just quickly, it's very simple. You're using a D10 and you're rolling to see if you hit, and then you compare that to a table, very kind of similar to what Retro Ray Gun is, and you'll have like 3 results of things that could happen in the end. So it's basically simple, fast, fun that you can play a couple games quickly in a night. So my 3 points, I had a couple of them, so I actually had to take some notes. So one of the first things that really jumped out at me as a first impression is the backstory and history. The setting and some of the story they have for this it's filled with flavor. To the point that the individual ships have their own stories. And we at Indie Invasion love games with narrative, and this is so much, it's in the same universe as Retro Ray Gun. So it's got that narrative story, and they build on it with the ships. You think about Star Trek, for example, with Enterprise. It's got a certain story to it that any other ship in that world isn't it's an individual story. So that was one of the things that I thought was cool, that stood out to me. And one of the things they actually have in the rule book is kind of neat, is they have pre-made squadrons that are, they have a certain name to them. So you think about, X-Wing, you had the Yellow Squadron, or you had, Red Squadron and stuff like that. It has that kind of character to some of the ships and squads in it. And so I thought that was kind of neat. Number 2.2, my first impressions of the game, is the optional play that they have in the game. Whether it's the map itself, you could either play the hex with the hex board. It makes movement and targeting a little bit easier. Or you can play an open board where you're actually measuring out the distance of, the ships have a certain distance that they can travel. You can actually use the good old-fashioned tape measure for that. Some of the other optional things they have in the game, and you can decide if you want to play with these or not, is they have space objects, or they have certain advanced rules that you could play with. So like space objects, they have, you can play with planetoids, asteroids, nebulas, which you can hide in, and you can actually fight in nebulas, and even minefields. You can lay down minefields for whoever you're playing with. Some of the advanced rules that they have in the game are ramming, boarding. So you can ram into another ship and then board it. And like if you got to rescue somebody, you could do docking if you want to exchange things. And then they have some other stuff for like landing on planets and stuff like that. And this a lot, I think, goes to what the scenarios are. Right? So you can take those bits and pieces to vary the scenarios. So that's kind of cool, those optional things they have. And then, speaking of scenarios, my last third impression for War Rocket is, I mentioned before, narrative. So the scenarios are very narrative based. And combining that with the optional play elements they have in the game, you can really change up the scenarios as you play it. And the other thing I like about the narrative scenarios is it doesn't have to be a one-on-one game. You can have multiple players in the game. You will have to adjust some of the scenarios a little bit, but it's built to accommodate multiple players, which is kind of cool. Still fast, even though sometimes you add players, it slows it down. It still can be a fast game narrative that, you can reset and just go again. But along with the narrative is you can build custom forces. So this is kind of the meat and potatoes of the game, is that you can even customize the individual rockets for flavor. And like I said, make the scenarios a little bit different. So a lot of these other space flying type games, you do this where you can upgrade the ships. This game, War Rocket, they kind of keep it simple for you guys. But it adds that little bit of flavor to your ships that maybe something didn't really kind of work right, or maybe you just wanted a different feel for your squad that you built. You can try these out, and they're pretty quick and easy to swap out. They could be as simple as a crew, so you can like take an engineer to get a certain bonus when you're shooting or when you're flying. You can go a little bit further. They have like equipment, so maybe a shield generator, it gives you a better defense. Just simple stuff like that. And they actually also have defects, so you can actually take a defect for one of your ships that lowers the cost of building. So maybe you want to squeeze that one more ship, like many of these space games. Well, you can take a defect to just lower the cost a little bit. And of course, it adds flavor. So it's all about that narrative. So that is basically my 3 first impressions. There was a couple other ones that, if you guys check it out, you'll probably come across. For you guys watching this, I don't have any miniatures for the games yet, but you can find them on their website and see a bunch of pictures on the Facebook. For you guys watching this, I am going to actually show you guys some of the models from the game. And if you're listening to us and it sounds interesting, I encourage you to check out War Rocket more you can find them at hydraminiatures.com. That's their website. And you'll see like the whole model line there that you can get. And also on their Facebook page, it's Hydra Miniatures fan page. And there's a lot of community models there that people have been working on and doing custom paints that are a little bit different than what's on the website. So that's the nice thing about our hobby and models, is that you can do all kinds of different custom things, whatever you want. But that's going to be about it. So like I said, if you're watching, stay tuned for the slideshow. All right, guys, thanks for listening to this first impression of War Rocket. As always, check out more of the content that Indie Invasion is putting out. You can check us out on our sponsor Facebook page, CoastalCon, and look into CoastalCon 2021. That's coming up in February. So far, things are looking good. That is going to be a go and a fun time. And Also, check out our podcast, our regular show at all podcast platforms, including Podbean, Google Play, iTunes. We're kind of all over the place. Mac's been posting us everywhere. And check out all the different projects we're working on, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, and our Facebook page. And then feel free to, if you would like, support us on Patreon, Indie Invasion. And feel free to email us with any comments or questions that you guys may have at indieinvasion@gmail.com. Biggest thing to help us out is to share the show with a friend. Spread the love. And until next time, guys, don't forget, prepare yourself for the invasion. Bye, guys.